Hello everyone, welcome to Regulatory Rewind number 17, brought to you by the Parity Legal team. And as usual, I'm bringing you the reminders that we are the Parity Legal team. We are lawyers, but we're not your lawyers. And anything that we say can't be constituted as legal advice or any other form of advice. And secondly, also to remind you, hello Nuke, to remind you is that we always welcome audience participation in our Reg Rewind. So if anyone has some questions, we'd be very happy to try and address them either today or in a future Reg Rewind. It gives us something to do and something to look forward to is answering our community's questions. So with that, we'll be doing our usual canter through the around the world from a regulatory policy industry space to do with blockchain and crypto. And first of all, I would like to bring on our colleague in Europe, Gustav, to talk about Europe, please.
Thank you, Eva. I would like to kick off with an article that we found about Tether. We've been reporting that Tether is continuously delisted by European exchanges for not complying with the MiCA. And this article goes a bit behind the reasoning why Tether doesn't want to be compliant with the MiCA. And basically the main reasons are one, bank reserves that Tether is criticizing that the requirement to hold 60% of the reserves in European banks would create a systemic risk for them if banks lack liquidity during redemptions and they prefer to hold their reserves in the US Treasury, which they found to have more liquidity and lower risk. Other concern is the digital euro that is being currently evaluated and planned, but in the way that it's planned right now, it might be that the digital euro has privacy concerns. They fear it could lead to transaction monitoring and control and concentrating too much power in a single institution. And the third reason would be that they focus on other markets like Brazil, Turkey, and Nigeria and just drop out of the European market. So that's something I found interesting. It's probably a nice read up for other people as well. Talking about Mika, Cryptocom has secured a EU license to launch crypto financial derivatives. They have obtained a MiFID license to offer regulated crypto derivatives in the European Economic Area, following a previous Mika approval that they already had. This is after they had an acquisition of a Cyprus-based trading service firm, and this firm was approved by the Cyprus Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC of Cyprus. Other companies are doing similar endeavors like Kraken, who's expanding in Europe with also regulated crypto derivatives. They also launched MiFID regulated crypto derivatives trading in Europe following its acquisition of a licensed crypto investment firm. The platform now offers perpetual fixed maturity crypto future trading, both retail and institutional consumers in the European Economic Area. Hi, Eva.
Gustav, yeah, hi. Well, I was wondering because it is every week there seems to be something happening in Europe about some licenses being granted or some kind of movement. Would you say this is very much the case because with Mika, these kind of things can happen?
I would say it's a mixture. So on the one hand, I think that Europe might be a super interesting market for some because it is a huge market worldwide, and there are a lot of people who are willing and able to play or invest with crypto. On the other side, I think it's really making it easier for companies to onboard in Europe because you can passport your license from one to the other jurisdictions in Europe, which is an easier entry point if you want, because before that you would have to go to each and every country directly and apply for a different license under different circumstances. And that's probably making it easier, more comfortable, and facilitating more countries at once for a company that wants to go in such endeavors.
That's really interesting because obviously it's a little bit like with IP rights and with some other rights, with that harmonization across states. It means that it doesn't matter which state you go into. Once you have that license, you can operate in all of Europe.
Yeah, and they are all in the same high standards, because before it was probably that different countries had different standards, which not only makes it complicated but also insecure, because you don't know if the standards that are in some country are also nice for you as an end user, as an institution. And now if you have it regulated on a higher level, then everybody performs the same and you can be quite certain what you get.
Thanks, Gustav. Sorry to interrupt you. I'll let you get back to your flow.
Thank you. Next thing I wanted to report on is FTX EU creditors can now withdraw money from Backpack Exchange. So Backpack has completed the acquisition of the European arm of the bankrupt crypto exchange FTX, allowing former FTX EU users to claim their euro balances after KYC verification directly via their platform. The reclamation process has already begun on April 1st, but the process is now really starting. And last but not least, I wanted to report on criminal banking organization taken down across Europe. There has been a Europol announcement that 17 individuals involved into criminal parallel banking organization offered money laundering across Europe. These arrests were conducted in January in Austria, Belgium, and Spain, and I think we reported on them. And now the Europol announced that the suspected facility illegal banking services included crypto operations, and about 4.5 millions of assets were seized with a network link to laundering over 21 million euros. So that's the news from Europe for today. And with that, I would like to give over to Glenn, who has news from a Gemini report in the UK.
Thank you, Gustav. So I want to touch on Gemini's crypto report, which shows some interesting data points about the crypto industry. So firstly, crypto ownership is on the rise globally, climbing from 21% in 2024 to 24% in 2025 across key markets. Singapore reports the highest adoption rate at 28%, while the UK saw the biggest jump this year, growing from 18% to 24%. Over in the US, it seems that President Trump's strategic Bitcoin reserves are shifting sentiment, as 23% of non-owners said it boosted their confidence in crypto, and only 12% of crypto owners reported selling in the last 6 months, down from 21% in 2024. Crypto ETFs are also gaining popularity. In the US, 39% of crypto holders now invest in ETFs, up from 37% last year. And in Italy, the UK, and Singapore, we also see that crypto ETFs are receiving higher uptakes. 31% of US investors who own both meme coins and more established cryptocurrencies say that they bought meme coins first, suggesting that meme coins are becoming a common entry point into the broader crypto and digital asset ecosystem. France currently leads meme coin adoption and ownership at 67%, followed by Singapore at 59%. Lastly, crypto is still more popular amongst younger demographics, with 52% of millennials and 48% of Gen Z having owned crypto, compared to just 35% of the general population at large. And so I would encourage you to read the full report to get the full scope, but those are some of the main takeaways from the report. And so with that, I'd like to hand it over to Jamil to continue the discussions.
Thanks, Glenn. Staying in the UK, as we mentioned a few weeks ago on Reg Rewind, the FCA discussion paper titled Regulating Crypto Asset Activities was published on May the 2nd. And the discussion paper is currently open for consultation, with the consultation period closing June the 13th, after which the draft rules will progress through the legislative process. There was also a crypto summit in Westminster, co-hosted by Crypto UK. It was a major parliamentary summit at the UK's House of Lords, which you can see in this image here, with Lord Ed Vaizey bringing together over 40 key figures from government and the crypto industry. The event focused on the UK's goal to become a global crypto hub, highlighting the need for function-specific regulation, faster registration processes, better education, and solutions to ongoing debanking issues. There was strong engagement from MPs and Lords, and the summit emphasized the importance of collaboration between policymakers and industry to shape smart, balanced regulation. On a similar note, US government officials met with UK crypto leaders at an event, a closed-door meeting, hosted by Crypto UK and law firm Travers Smith in London on May the 14th. They discussed global crypto regulation, and the event emphasized the need for stronger UK-US collaboration, covering topics such as global policy alignment, crypto taxation, stablecoin frameworks, CBDCs, illicit finance, and blockchain's role in financial infrastructure. There were about 25 delegates present, and the session fostered key transatlantic dialogue on shaping responsible innovation in the digital asset space. And with that, closing on the UK, over to Eva with some news from Asia.
Thanks, Jamil. Actually, before we jump over to Asia, let's pause in the UK a little bit just to wrap up the Gemini report and the Crypto UK news and the different discussions happening in the House of Lords. I think it's fair to say that the thread there is that the use of crypto in the UK is rising. The use of crypto by younger generations in the UK is rising. That has been acknowledged by the FCA, and with the consultation closing soon, we anticipate that the FCA should be getting a lot of feedback on that increased usage, and in particular, the kind of discussions that are happening in the House of Lords and with the US counterparties. It feels like there is definitely movement in the UK. I'm feeling very optimistic. In fact, I haven't got my relentless optimism mug with me, but it feels optimistic that there is education happening. There's a willingness to learn, and there is a desire, as we mentioned before, to create that post-Brexit identity for the UK. So I wouldn't give up hope yet on the UK. I think the UK is still going to come out with legislation that will be has already been proven to take a slightly different path to Europe and a slightly different path to potentially what the US is becoming. So I also think we should always touch upon the fact that Polkadot is doing its part in educating the legislators because, for example, the PBA had its track for legislators and policymakers, and I hope that that will continue in the future with Polkadot continuing to lead the way with some education from a blockchain perspective. Thanks, Jamil.
And also quickly, Eva, I'd say much needed optimism as well after some comments we've covered on Reg Rewind in previous episodes. Some ill-informed comments about blockchain, crypto, and the space as a whole. I think that's a good point about there being reason to be optimistic. So that's good to see in the UK, and hopefully we see that elsewhere as well.
That was from the FCA itself, wasn't it? I remember you talking about that.
It was the FCA chair and the Bank of England governor as well, yeah.
Hopefully they'll be changing their minds once they realize the voices that are to be heard from the industry, and also reporting and statistics such as what the Gemini report has proven to have delivered. Thank you, Jamil. We'll be back, no doubt, next week with more news on the UK. And I was going to do a quick canter through some of the countries in Asia which have had some regulatory and policy developments. So Asia, first up, we have Hong Kong. And Hong Kong, well, last week we talked about some of the trials and tribulations in the US where the Genius Bill was suffering, the stablecoin Genius Bill was suffering some setbacks and back and forth, requiring quite a lot of cross-party voting and consolidation to get that bill through to the next stage. So in Hong Kong, last Wednesday, in fact, shortly around the time of Reg Rewind, we weren't able to report on it at the time, but they have enacted legislation requiring for stablecoins. So like that, Hong Kong now has a stablecoin regulatory framework for stablecoins, and it's around getting licenses from the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, and it's also releasing draft guidelines on how to comply with the new regulatory framework. And that would include things like anti-money laundering processes and what kind of reserve asset standards need to be met. This means that they should be looking at fiat-backed stablecoin issuance by the end of the year. And this is all part of Hong Kong's strategy, which we've been talking about for over the years, in getting itself in a top position to be a global Web3 hub. So it already has a stablecoin sandbox, and the industry has responded very positively to this, as you might imagine. Some comments on that itself is the Hong Kong dollar stablecoins, because the Hong Kong dollar is pegged to the US dollar assets would be permitted. So that's worth noting. And from Hong Kong over to South Korea, where some stories that I've previously reported on as well in South Korea is that South Korea has had a fairly stringent approach to regulation around institutional trading of crypto assets. And what has been changing is that a loosening of those restrictions. And as part of that loosening of the restrictions, first came the would be allowed to trade. So pure profit-making organizations. And we reported on this previously that it was going to be phased as such, but now they have created new compliance rules which would be effective as of next month, which is what it's all going to be when it's all going to kick off and institutional trading would be allowed. Hopefully you can all hear me. We're reporting that there are some issues with dropping in and out, and maybe it's on my side. So if there's still issues, do you want to, I'll just quickly talk about, okay, I will just quickly talk about Pakistan. If the slide deck can move to Pakistan, that'd be great. Thank you. So the first, there's two Pakistan stories. They're kind of related. They're kind of regulatory because this is not yet regulation. So it's policy making, but it will become regulation. So we've said in the previously that Pakistan is also looking to position itself as a crypto leader in the industry leader in the region. It's also, despite previous criticism of crypto, adoption is actually quite high in Pakistan. It's ranked in Chain Analysis's 2024 Crypto Adoption Index as number 9, I believe. 9, yes, which is quite high. And previously, we reported that they were setting up a crypto council. Now they have set up a that crypto council has set up a regulatory body responsible for overseeing licensing and regulation of exchanges. So their equivalent of the SEC has now been is going to get set up. So small steps, but from going from a ban to adoption to supporting innovation and actually creating a policy and taking on board former Binance CEO CZ as an advisor to that council and now creating a actual authority to regulate is big steps and are big steps. And the next story is a further appointment, which is appointing Bilal bin Saqib as the CEO of the Pakistan Crypto Council, who happens to be an advisor of World Liberty Financial. And a special, he is also being appointed as the special assistant to the Prime Minister for blockchain and crypto. So there's potentially conflict of interest there and some scrutiny of the US's influence. But I guess people who know about the industry are very knowledgeable. Therefore, if they are involved, and it gives a government more, not just more knowledge, but also more status in launching something like an entire new industry in their country. I'm going to also quickly cover some developments in Thailand, which is more about the industry rather than there's some elements of regulatory and policy here. Thailand is obviously a beautiful country, and it relies quite heavily on the tourism industry. And in order to encourage a convergence of tourism and crypto spending, they're launching a pilot program to allow tourists to use crypto via credit card linked platforms, which would convert crypto to Thai fiat baht at the point of sale without the merchants necessarily knowing it was crypto that was used. So this is quite interesting because we're entering into kind of consumer payment space, and this would require the government to look at some regulatory reforms whereby they're looking at traditional finance and digital asset finance and how to simplify the landscape so that things like this pilot could become a permanent reality and would enable broader investment by institutional players in the region. So that is my section on Asia over, and I'll pass it over to Jamil to talk about Middle East and Africa.
Thank you, Eva. In the Middle East and Africa, we start off in the UAE, where Dubai's Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, VARA, has issued updated guidelines clarifying the issuance and trading of real-world asset tokens, referred to as Asset Reference Virtual Assets, abbreviated as ARVAs. These rules authorize regulated exchanges and broker-dealers to list ARVA tokens on secondary markets, marking a significant step toward institutional adoption of blockchain-based assets. To issue ARVA tokens, entities must obtain a Category 1 virtual asset issuance license, publish a comprehensive white paper and risk disclosure, maintain a minimum paid-up capital of 1.5 million UAE dirhams, which is approximately 408,000 US dollars, or 2% of reserve assets, and undergo monthly independent audits. These measures aim to provide regulatory clarity and a viable framework for RWA tokenization in Dubai and the broader UAE. And staying in Dubai, Dubai unveils a real estate tokenization platform on XRP Ledger amid 16 billion US dollar initiative. So Dubai has launched this platform called Pripco Mint, developed in collaboration with fintech firm Pripco and infrastructure provider Control Alt. This platform enables investors to purchase fractional ownership in Dubai properties with title deeds tokenized on the XRP ledger, ensuring synchronization with official property records. The initiative is part of Dubai's broader strategy to digitize 7% of its real estate market, aiming for 16 billion US dollars in tokenized assets by the year 2033. Currently, the platform supports transactions in UAE dirhams and is accessible to UAE ID holders, with investment entry points starting at approximately 540 US dollars. The move aligns with Dubai's ongoing efforts to integrate blockchain technology into traditional markets, and the Dubai Land Department, in partnership with the Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority and the Dubai Future Foundation, is spearheading the initiative to position the city as a global leader in digital asset adoption. And moving over to the Emirate of Abu Dhabi in the UAE, Bitcoin Swiss, a prominent Swiss crypto financial services provider, has received in-principle approval from the Financial Services Regulatory Authority of Abu Dhabi Global Market, the ADGM. This marks the company's first expansion beyond the European Union, and the approval granted to its subsidiary BTCS Middle East paves the way for offering regulated services such as digital asset trading, crypto securities, and derivatives, and custody solutions in the UAE. Kader Majson, head of global expansion, emphasized the firm's commitment to transparency and regulatory compliance, viewing Abu Dhabi as a significant growth opportunity. This move aligns with the UAE's broader strategy to position itself as a leading hub for digital assets in the Middle East. So a few stories there on the UAE, and moving on over to the US, where Glenn will kick us off there. Glenn?
Thanks, Jamil. So on the topic of taxes, over in the US at the federal level, Trump's new One Big Beautiful Bill Act narrowly passed in the House of Representatives by one vote, 215 to 214. It's interesting that no Democrats supported the bill and a few Republicans voted against the bill, which gives insight to some of the partisan nature of this contentious bill. The bill codifies 2017 tax cuts, ends taxes on tips, increases funding for defense and border security, and cuts programs like Medicaid and education. Interestingly, Elon Musk publicly criticized the bill, saying that it undermines the work that the Doge team is doing to cut spending. Over at the state level, we see that in Florida, a new bill aims to remove crypto gains tax at the state level, including assets like Bitcoin, XRP, and even some stocks. Florida does not currently have capital gains tax in general, but this bill, which is backed by Governor DeSantis, adds crypto to the exemption. Although federal taxes still apply, the move is part of a broader push to attract crypto businesses and investors over in sunny Florida. So it seems like the race to become the most attractive crypto state is heating up. So we'll watch this space. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Gustav to continue with the US to discuss stablecoins.
Thank you, Glenn. Yes, I would like to just highlight, we talked about the Genius Act last week. In parallel, lawmakers introduced the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act, which aims to give legal clarity to developers and service providers who don't do custody customer funds. And it is meant to increase regulatory momentum and clearer crypto regulations for the US market. And talking about the US market and stablecoins, There are some US banks, several major US banks actually, JP Morgan case, Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo, who are currently exploring possibilities of issuing a joint stablecoin. It's still very early in a conceptual stage, and things might change, but it's interesting to see. And additionally, regional and community banks are also considering their own stablecoins consortiums. So that's from the stablecoin part. Over to Jamil with new developments in the Bitcoin Reserve department.
Thanks, Gustav. Texas is on the verge of becoming the third US state to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. On May the 21st, the Texas House of Representatives passed Senate Bill 21, SB 21, with a 101 to 42 vote. The bill, which had already passed the state Senate, now awaits Governor Greg Abbott's signature to become law. SB 21 authorizes the Texas comptroller to create a special fund separate from the state treasury to invest in Bitcoin and potentially other cryptocurrencies that have maintained a market capitalization of at least $500 billion over the past 12 months. Currently, only Bitcoin meets this criterion. The reserve would be managed using cold storage technology and could engage in activities like staking and derivatives if seemed beneficial. Funds for the reserve could come from legislative appropriations, donations from Texas residents, and returns on investments. Supporters argue that the reserve would enhance Texas's financial resilience, diversify investment strategies, and position the state as a leader in digital finance. If it's signed into law, Texas would then join New Hampshire in adopting a state-level Bitcoin reserve. Arizona had previously passed similar legislation, but it was vetoed by the governor of that state. Governor Abbott of Texas, a proponent of cryptocurrency, is expected to sign the bill into law. The establishment of the reserve would mark a significant step in integrating digital assets into state financial strategies. And with that, we are at time, actually. We do have a funny story, or noteworthy story, I should say, but I'll go over to Eva first.
Thanks, Jamil. Well, there are noteworthy stories, but I think if our audience members wish to leave now, they can. I would like to cover just a couple more points in the US because they are significant from a regulatory perspective, but also one that has a sort of potential liability perspective. So Mango markets would be the first one. If the Mango market slide could be brought up, please. I think this is interesting because from the parity perspective, we often think about code as law. And well, I think about code as law, not as often as some people think about the Roman Empire, but the idea of code as law, we don't have time, so I will be brief. And if this was commented on, there are multiple aspects of the Mango markets case, but one of the points is that it is seen to be a win for the code of law doctrine because the autonomy of smart contracts would suggest that unless DeFi protocols explicitly defined obligations, it could be courts would be unwilling to imply obligations in that protocol itself. So there's quite a lot there, and maybe I'll go into it next time because this is an ongoing case. There are multiple, a bit like Tomato Cash, there are multiple allegations in multiple cases, civil and criminal. And this one touched upon protocol design and contractual obligations. So that perked my ears up, and I thought I wanted to talk about this one. I'm also briefly going to talk about some changes in the CFTC, or some changes about what happens when people stop being regulators. So when people stop being regulators, they often go into the industry. And Summer Mesing is, until the end of this week, a CFTC commissioner who we've mentioned quite a few times on our Reg Rewinds because she has she was one of the few Democratic CFTC commissioners, and she was very pro crypto. And she also issued a dissenting opinion when the agency entered into a settlement agreement with Uniswap, which some of you might recall, which she called regulation by enforcement. So she is certainly someone who is seen as pro regulation, pro industry, and she is moving to become the CEO of the Blockchain Association, which is one of the largest crypto lobbying firms in DC. And there's more to the story because there's a lot of movements in DC and in the lobbying circles. So I will park it there, but to also mention that the other person was Christopher Giancarlo, who was a former CFTC chairman, and it was originally thought that he may replace Gary Gensler. But he shortly after the election, he ruled himself out, and he is now joining Signum, which is a digital asset bank in the US. Now, I will wrap it up and pass it over to Jamil for the funny story.
Thank you, Eva. So last week on Reg Rewind, Eva talked about energy being stolen for crypto mining in the country of Bhutan. Well, this week we go from Bhutan to Bradford in the UK, where West Yorkshire Police are investigating a case of electricity theft at an industrial premises. On May the 21st, officers discovered several computer terminals being used to mine cryptocurrency. The electrical supply powering these computers had been compromised, leading to an offence of illegal abstraction of electricity. The incident highlights a growing issue of energy theft in the UK and across the world, with cryptocurrency mining operations increasingly being linked to unauthorized electricity use. Authorities are urging businesses and individuals to report any suspicious activity and to be aware of the dangers associated with tampering with electricity supplies, such as the potential for electrical fires. And with that, back over to Eva to wrap up for this week. Eva?
Thanks, Jamil. I think that was a very interesting news story, actually, because it kind of brings it all back to the technology. All servers pretty much look like that, whether it's in Bhutan or in Bradford. And maybe next time we should have a picture of what Bradford looks like compared to Bhutan, and a comparison of how much energy is being stolen or generated in Bradford and Bhutan. So with that, our curious minds for the week are going to park it for another 7 days, although we never actually stop. Behind the scenes, we're always preparing our next Reg Rewind. And I would like to say thank you very much to Jamil, Glenn, and Gustav, and behind the scenes teams. You know who you are. And we will see you next week for further news updates. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, guys.